Welcome to Constellation TV. We're switching things up, and I get to be, I think, on the second newly remixed episodes of CRTV. But I am Liz Mueller, VP and Principal Analyst here at Constellation Research, and I am your host for episode 130. 130 times that we have brought you the news and everything that's happening in enterprise technology. We're here every 2 weeks. We're here with the hottest takes. We're here with the enterprise tech. And this episode, no exception. In fact, what you are going to get to see is a bit of a debate over a word. You're going to hear my reaction to this word in a second, but we bring you a great debate on what is happening in the world of tokenomics. I'm going to be joined by Holger Mueller and Mike Nee, who have been looking at this from a couple different directions, from what's happening with development and how fast we can move and innovate on product, to what could be happening with data and what's happening with culture and how we are bringing all things token and all things AI into a world that we like to call reality. We're also going to hear from our esteemed leader, Wang, who got to sit down with the COO of Certinia. You're going to hear me then come back and try to see how fast I can make Larry Dignan break. I'm going to toss a couple keywords and a couple buzzword bingo items over at him, and let's just see how fast I can make Larry lose his mind. With that, I think it's about time to get into it. We are back, and I am joined by Holger and Mike, and we're going to get into it a little bit. As you know, we got some changes afoot here at CRTV, and we want to make sure that some of the big debates that are happening throughout the day and happening in technology are being brought to you. So, guys, I'm gonna say a term that I dislike intensely. I'm just going to say it, and then we're going to talk about this issue because it needs to be talked about, both the good, bad, and the ugly. Tokenmaxxing. It is a horrible word. I do not enjoy this at all. But what I dislike even more than everyone running around like a bunch of like school children with scissors, shouting about how everyone has to be token maxing and having spreadsheets to see who's token maxing and all this stuff, is that somehow we've gotten ourselves into a corner where we're somehow making the assumption that just because someone maxed the most, they're doing the most or they're the most successful. So here's the question of the day: token maxing, right or wrong? And what do we replace it with? Holger, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Of course, like everything is maxing right now. So, okay, fine, let's maximize the tokens. The interesting thing there, from my perspective, is it's variable cost for the enterprise. And everybody's been around the block, knows that has happened for cloud before. Cloud maxing never happened when adoption of cloud happened because, oh my God, the budgets and so on. So the interesting difference is now that the AI adoption doesn't happen on enterprise level where the whole enterprise says this is what you have to use, but you have to convince the single user to use cloud, use AI, and with that use more tokens and do things and reinvent the way of working. And it's good to see from my perspective. I would call it even the democratization of business automation, in the sense that it's up to the individual user, having the back covered by all the way to the CFO, to find new ways of working using AI, and don't have to worry about how much does it cost me, will I be able to do this, I have to do a change request to IT, I have to go to a big implementation project and so on. So it's up to me, and I don't have to worry how much it is, as long as I can justify I tried this, maybe I failed, that's great, fail fast, learn from it, right? Old startup moniker or best practice. Or I did something new, and this is something we should adopt in general and worked fantastically. So
Mike,
I think it's a great democratization.
Mike, are you maxing? Mike, are you going to go token max right now? Go.
I'm ready. You know, I think it's really easy to dismiss because I think everyone goes for the headlines, and you want to just say, hey, token maxing, people are cheating the system. But, you know, to a certain extent, I think this is all around how do you actually create that shift. We're not just talking about a measurement. We're talking about shared values. We're talking about skills. We're talking about style of a company. And, you know, for me, while broad usage is not interesting, you know, I believe in the hero, right? You know, those guys, they're the ones that you want to unleash. It's like Google saying, I want 10% of your time on your projects. And what's interesting, those heroes, actually, you give them latitude. The fast followers who actually have some pressure to use tokens, they say, well, how did you do that? And then frankly, the laggards, start to feel a little uncomfortable. And yes, they're going to say, hey, we're just token maxing. But I think it all gets back to when executives that we see get religion, they put their hands on it. And all of a sudden, the art of the possible just opens up, and they know how much of a difference it makes. And so, to me, this is about unleashing your heroes, giving them some latitude, which then starts creating that shift in the organization, style, shared values. But the measurement, it needs to be more nuanced. We'll get into that, though.
It doesn't feel like that's happening, though. I've got to be honest, because I think that, yes, there are the headlines that talk about token maxing, and we can go on and on about how ridiculous that is in and of itself. But there is this growing conversation that I think is splitting what you both are talking about, which is being able to unleash the hero and being able to empower folks to not sit there and be like, can I please have another token? And, there's this kind of weird switch right now where you've got organizations that want to lock it down and treat it like it's candy and only give it to people when they want it. But then you've got this weird culture that's growing where the mindset is, if we're maxing, if we're doing everything to the extreme and AI, like all of that is not necessarily creating a business goal or a rigor. They're doing things so things can happen. And it feels a little bit like we're just asking a room full of people who have a whole lot of ideas to run around with scissors. And I think within a business, there has to be, yes, that empowerment, the excitement, the capacity to go and try and test and establish the new and innovate. But there's also got to be a reason why. And I think right now, the reason why is maxing, and that does not feel like the right measure that we want to go with. That, there needs to be an individual in the room that has a whistle and says, kids, maxing is cute, but now we've got to max for a reason. And I don't think we've hit that yet. We're still saying, if I use the most, I must be doing the best.
Well, if I could, I'd just respond two ways. One is from the bottoms up and the hero side. And I think that's important because when you think about the bottoms up, you do need to couple that with shared values. And this is where the manager who's really trying to monitor is not letting the guy who's just burning tokens of the weekend by having a whole world running in the cycle. They've got to be holding their organization's feet to the fire. And there's going to be experimentation. Yes, that's the intent. But I think shared values has to come with that. But I do think the top down is where you're starting to get to as well. And what we've seen is we had 120 CEOs and board members at our, Constellation Fast Forward event. And, I was at a table with one of the CEOs and he was like, why am I the CAIO? And there was broad agreement. In fact, there was a survey that just came out. I forgot who put it out. 60% of CEOs are the CAIOs because they are having to give that vision. What are we really trying to achieve? What's that business metric that then starts getting back to how do we realistically use this?
Exactly.
And I think both are going to have to be true.
Exactly.
And trying to get some of that bottoms up.
And then technology adoption by business users needs to go through the thought process. What's the value for my work? What's the value for my enterprise? How do I create value with this? And it's implicitly there. The other challenge that is there, the AI topic is moving so fast that the traditional enterprise software adoption cycles of figuring out, evaluating, implementing, piloting, and so on are too slow to keep a company being competitive. So I think boards and CEOs are fine to burn as terrible as the extra IT cost of token maxing for the sake of experimentation. So I'm not worried about this. I'm also not worried about this KPIs, right? You put up a KPI who does the most and people abuse the KPI and try to cheat, right? I mean, you can go to every API, that's always about, that's nothing new. What I'm worried about that you would get like 100,000 artisans of everybody using software and AI in a different way. And then ultimately enterprises live from scale, right? Somebody gets replaced, somebody goes on vacation, somebody knows how to work with it. And I have no idea what AI is this. I don't know how to use it, how they do this, there's secret sauce. So I think the leap from artisanal work to mercantilistic work to go historically to industrial work for the enterprise, that's much more my concern on the individuals. But I think it's the best thing which has happened to white collar workers if they're empowered to experiment what their automation is, which before was never possible. People had to beg to upgrade their Office version, but people had to ask for more storage to store stuff in the cloud. Oh my God, the cloud, how do you do this? How do you pay for this? So I think it's a great area for experimentation. I think it just gets an evil backed rap like all the maxing stuff.
But I also think it's super isolated. And I think that at some point we have to admit, especially the three of us here, is that we have access to very rarefied air, right? Yeah. We see the technology. We are within technology forward organizations. We have a technology forward mindset. I worry about those organizations that are fighting to keep up, and that AI could really put them on that superhighway to not just keep up, but potentially move forward, to be beyond, these are the organizations that are still coming to conferences and still coming to people like the three of us and saying, I'm still trying to figure out how to get on the cloud. Like, there are organizations like that. We cannot forget that they still exist. And I think that AI practically can actually be a huge leap forward for them.
Absolutely.
But if what
Absolutely.
they're feeling is a pressure to max, I got to hire people that want to token max. I got to, like, if they think
Right.
that this is some type of label that if they tick it off, then all the good things happen, we're going to end up farther behind in that leadership mindset that says experimentation is possible, experimentation is good, and creativity, thanks to tokens and creativity with AI, got us into a mess. And that's what I worry about when this like over exuberance to waste as much as I can suddenly takes on a mainstream conversation where you've got, organizations that shouldn't be talking about maxing.
Well, but
I think you're right,
that is the beginning
Liz.
of the downfall. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So a company which is not in the cloud, right? So this is the ironic thing which AI changes. Let me get off token maxing for a second. Is that the sins of the past where you missed technology advance, like moving to the cloud, right? 10 years ago, CIOs were laughing about their colleague in the cloud where there was just leak and so on. All of a sudden, the technological debt which your decisions in the past have accumulated leads to a situation where you're not viable and you don't make it as a company. And that creates the panic to listen to all the buzzwords, and there's way too many buzzwords in the sky, and a panic-like adoption to it, which will even accelerate the downfall. But Mike, what was your take?
Well, no, I was just going to agree with Liz. I mean, I think this all gets back down to a single metric is not going to get us very far. You have to couple that, how do you get to those shared values? How do you get to that way where you have the evaluation at your different levels of what are you doing with it?
Right.
In fact, Liz, you start off the question, which is how should we measure this? Is there a measure that works?
Unfortunately, that's going to be for another debate, Mike, because we do have a limitation on time and this cannot go on forever. Here is my one ask for everyone, though. If we're going to come up with a new buzzword and if we're going to come up with a new measurement, it should not sound like the end of the word ends with the word dude or bro. Token maxing, dude. I do not like it. Anyway, thanks so much. Hey, Holger, Mike, thanks for being here. I think it's a great discussion. Please, everyone watching, make sure that you're having this discussion within your organization so that you're bringing both the culture and you're bringing the common to this conversation. We'll see you next time. Liz Mueller, VP and Principal Analyst here at Constellation Research. And I want to talk about assets, very specifically digital assets. These are the images, the audio, the video, the demos, the Instagram graphics, the illustrations, everything. When we start to think about how to manage digital assets, of course, we come to one of my favorite categories that I get to cover, digital asset management. And it's not just because I get to say, damn, okay, it partially is that, but it's also because I think that DAM is one of the most underestimated technologies and categories that we talk about in enterprise technology. It is the last mile of experience delivery, but it's often the first idea that brings IT and experience teams together in a way that makes sense for everyone. What do I mean by that? DAM and DAM maturity typically starts with the first big idea, which can start in IT, it can start in digital teams, it can start in marketing, it can start in sales and service. And the idea is that we've got a lot of stuff. We've created a lot of stuff. How do we find a place and a space where we can store all of this, where we can put a logo that has all of the final iterations of the logo and we can pin it to the very top of the interface, where everyone can have access to, let's say, the box, the Dropbox, the SharePoint, but you can organize your assets in a way that makes sense for the users, makes sense for the creators, and makes sense for that final application. And you are wrapping that governance around it. You're wrapping the controls. You have version controls. You have storage. You are looking for consistency at that point. You also start to look for search. And in this big idea, number one, when it comes to brand assurance, all the teams involved are also looking to eliminate redundancy, and they're looking to eliminate brand obsolescence. Let's get that last iteration that we don't use anymore out of there. Let's archive the old logo because we have the new one. We start to think of brand and storage synonymously. And how do we find those digital destinations that work towards that? But as that continues to happen, as the brand matures, as the organization matures, as IT matures, we start to realize that something is missing when we think of that in that first idea. And what we are missing out on is brand security. And we need to take that next step in DAM. And that's when we start moving into what are truly digital asset management solutions. What are DAMs? This is where the metadata comes in. This is where we start to look at versioning and versioning controls. This is where we start to really look to the platform to drive derivatives. Once we upload something, can it autonomously size, format? I want every type of format that a user could want, but I also want every crop people could want. Do we want the whole image? Do we just want the product? Do we want the product and the hero? Do we want all the products? Do we need to be in seasonal backgrounds? What different type of size do we need for social media versus a presentation versus our digital advertising? We start to look at the archival capabilities so that storage is no longer the focus. We can actually get a lot more sophisticated in what goes into, say, the lower cost cold storage. The archiving capabilities start to become that much more important. In this second big idea, when we start to look for brand security in our DAM solutions, we're also talking about controls. And we're talking about control not only of the brand, but of the users and of the rights and of the applications. We want to be able to have selective versioning. Not everything needs a million sizes. I don't need 1,000 different iterations and revisions of that one asset. I might just need one. I can set those controls. I can set up auto tagging. That's where we start to get to that brand idea number 2. But even that leads to a more sophisticated thought. Even that leads to the next big idea. That big idea number 3 shifts from brand security, where everything is about control, and it moves into brand safety. Is the asset usable? Do we have the rights to that asset? How are we autonomously adding metadata that means not only insight and information for our business, but also for our customers? It's built for purpose, for experience delivery. These DAMs, these more robust, the bigger tools, the enterprise tools, that's when we're really looking for AI to really become that autonomous force that is not only making sure that our metadata is uniform, but that we are adding important insights around model or favorite model for a campaign. We're looking at the analytics to drive better utilization, better understanding, better delivery of our assets. We're looking for that CDN, that's for sure. We're looking for those controls, and we're looking for that AI. And that's what brings me to what we release as our digital asset management shortlist. This is where the smart comes in. This is where the AI comes in. This is when we're not just looking to store. We're not just looking to have brand assurance. We're not looking just for controls like what we'd need in brand security. We're opening that up. We're opening that up far beyond. And we're really looking for those tools and solutions that really bind these assets to our business, our brand. Smartsheet is one of a handful of really smart and intelligent DAM solutions that do seamlessly integrate and even have their own work management solutions, where all of those requests that are coming in for assets and iterations and revisions and renditions, those are handled through that solution so that the work of delivering these digital experiences isn't more work when you're trying to execute. That's why these types of solutions are so important. That's why enterprises are demanding that their DAM solutions are integrated with work solutions. And certainly Brandfolder is one of those. Easy to use, really nice UI. It takes a lot of the pain, a lot of the struggle, a lot of the feeling that you have to climb a hill just to be able to use it out of that solution, which also means that for folks who don't live in their DAM, who maybe just need a link to a portal for assets, they're having as easy of a user experience through that interface as folks who live in it all day long. Those are just a couple things that make this stand out for me. So as you're looking at the shortlist, be sure to look for those things that drive you from one maturity phase to another. Look for that smart application of AI. Look for that metadata. Look for that brand security and safety. But more than anything, make sure that you're thinking about DAM as more than a big bucket where you can store little folders. DAM is so much more. It is the last mile. And you know what? It's fun to talk about in meetings. DAM is pretty damn good.
Hi, I'm here with Robert Cesafsky. You just published an interesting article. You're the COO of Certinia. And more importantly, you came up with a very interesting concept and theory. And it really underpins really why every project and every project-based approach has been misunderstood. So let's start with the context here. It's an HP article that just recently came out talking about the notion of project management, project delivery being two different things. I mean, who would have thought that we hadn't figured this out by now? But it's so obvious, but it's not obvious. Explain why and why this has changed in the age of AI.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ray, and thanks for having me. Excited for the conversation here. Yeah, you know, the piece I wrote about, I think, is a specific example of what I believe to be a broader topic around, you know, business leaders, frankly, being more nuanced in their application of AI technologies within their companies. But within that specific example, a lot of what I've been seeing, and I know, you know, our leadership team at Certinia has been seeing from our professional services customers is that they're very, very focused, understandably so, on deploying AI solutions in support of client-facing services work, right? We call that services delivery. And, you know, these are broad, probabilistic AI solutions supporting, you know, research, content synthesis, content creation, unstructured data management, right? And all of those types of use cases. But there's a whole other side, right, to services organizations, which focuses on managing, right, the business of services, what we call services management. And this is, you know, services estimation, quoting, resource management, project financial management, forecasting, billing and revenue management. And you know, it really is this kind of dichotomy of these two sides of the same business services organization here, professional services organization, the services delivery and the services management. And the point of the article really, Ray, I think is threefold. First is that services businesses just need to recognize the difference, right, between solutions for services delivery and then the solutions for services management. And then second, AI solutions, right, that can be applied towards services management aren't the same, right, as that can be used for services delivery, right? There's greater allowance for probabilistic, right, solutions, probabilistic outcomes in and around services delivery, whereas services management might require a much more deterministic and auditable solution there as well. And then, you know, third, to whatever extent, and I think we're seeing this rapidly right now, to whatever extent that there's been historically a bright line between and separating services delivery and services management, that line's quickly being erased. You know, services delivery is increasingly informing services management, and services management likewise is going to inform services delivery. And as you know, services business leaders or professional services leaders, you really need to be thinking about kind of both of those and solving for both of those from an AI standpoint, not just one or the other. And that's really the point of the article there, Ray.
You know, this is really important when we think about the flows and the decision trees that are involved here. There are a set of deterministic decision trees and a set that are probabilistic.
Yeah.
Talk about that logic between the deterministic logic versus the probabilistic logic, because it's kind of important to understand that before you even jump into AI.
That's exactly right. And not just that, right, but auditable too, right? Like if it takes an action, right, and I need to know exactly what the action was that it took. And so I think that's again our approach. And when we start thinking about the value of Certinia and what it is that we sometimes bring to the table here, we're not bringing that probabilistic, right, AI models, right? Those things exist, but we are harnessing that, right, and supporting and working with that on behalf of our customers within that kind of rules-bound and auditable framework.
So this is why you keep saying PSOs, professional service organizations, keep solving the wrong AI problem, is because you have to break them into deterministic versus probabilistic, services management versus services delivery. I mean, by doing that, then you can actually get AI correctly done, and of course finding the right system. But you also talk about where these points converge. One of the most interesting things from reading your article is the insight that comes out from learning that if you're collapsing decision trees, then you need to know exactly who's responsible for the outcome, and when and where you insert a human becomes just as important as the automation, but actually might even be more important. Where you insert the human is actually the art of actually making this successful.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, right? And we talk, to so many of our customers about this progression and acceleration towards outcomes-based pricing, work, and how services firms are going to start to differentiate and compete with each other, right, on those capabilities around those outcomes. And I think being able to have, right, clear and auditable measurement, right, of what those outcomes are around any services engagement, right, going forward here is going to be critical for any services firm, right? Being able to sit there and articulate, look, this is what we've delivered, right? This is how we've delivered it, right? And again, this is the outcome that we've been driving for you. Is going to be essential.
So let's make it even more real. Bobby, I'm the director of operations. What does my life look like on Monday morning with Veda running in the background?
Yeah, absolutely. So what Veda is really doing, is really automating the glue of your services business, right? As you start to think and you're a project manager, right, reporting perhaps, Ray, into you as the director of operations, right, thinking about all the status reports, right, thinking about the resource updates, thinking about, what are those documents and what are those forms and communications, right, that you're delivering, both to your client, right, as well as to your team and perhaps to your managers within the services organization as well, right? That's eating, easily a third of a project manager's week, right, from a time standpoint right now. With Veda, right, we're able to automate, right, and agentify a lot of those workflows that are really kind of gobbling up, right, a lot of that administrative work on behalf that project managers and service delivery leads need to perform on a regular basis. And being able to just reclaim that allows you to go do more billable work, right? Makes you more available again to kind of do more strategic and thoughtful activities, right, on behalf of your services firm, and frankly deliver those outcomes, right, to your clients in a faster manner as well.
I like those specialist AI agents, and I think what's important here is, we typically have the scenario where you send someone out for 2 weeks, come back to figure out what's going on. You send someone out for a day, you get the information coming back. You're going to realize very quickly that time compression is here. The human is in the critical path of almost every single decision. And so you're going to actually, it's going to give you more at bats, but at the same time, you're going to have to make sure that you put more experience in place, because expertise is now a commodity, but experience is not. So you're going to see something different.
I love that line. I love that. I'm going to have to steal that from you, Ray.
Definitely take it. Definitely take it. So let's talk about what happens, because if I get my services management and my services delivery together, but if I did them separately, I'd be in trouble. I would never get to the autonomous enterprise. Tell me why that's the case.
Yeah, again, you really do need to think about that end-to-end workflow and really staying focused on your clients right here as well. And as I was mentioning, that bright line between kind of services and services management and services delivery really is being erased. And what services organizations are going to need to think about, as you kind of mentioned, right? We're going to compete in a different way now, right? We're going to compete on outcomes. We're going to compete on speed. We're going to compete on time to value here. And if those are going to be the areas for competition, right? Going all the way and making sure that you're in lockstep in terms of how you're managing the business and how you're delivering it, right, with speed and accuracy and client outcomes in mind is going to be critical, right, for services organizations to be able to compete in the future here. They need to be connected.
Well, if you haven't read this, check out HBR, Why Professional Service Organizations Keep Solving the Wrong AI Problem. Definitely a thought leadership piece not to forget. I think it came out May 5th. Yeah,
Yes, a few days ago. Yeah.
May 5th. Yeah, this came out May 5th. So definitely something to check out. Definitely read that. Bobby, it's a pleasure talking to you. I think this is going to unlock a lot of value for organizations who are trying to figure out why they're not getting their AI efforts to be successful. It's because they're not seeing the big picture, and they've got to figure out how to pull all this together. And the semantic, the context layer, that's going to be even more important as we bring deterministic and probabilistic capabilities together in AI. So thanks for being here, Bobby.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Ray.
Oh, everyone, this is a segment that I have been really looking forward to all week, because this is when I get to just shout words at Larry and just see what happens. So Larry, I'm going to give you a couple phrases of the day. You just give me your honest reaction to them. You let me know. Are these real? Are these not real? You as a journalist, how do you really feel about some of these words? Sound fair?
That sounds good.
Okay. Let's go with auto magical.
Oh my God. And it's just beyond stupid. Like, just stop. It's ridiculous.
It is the favorite way to describe what happens in that peanut butter meets chocolate moment of when a workflow is granted access to data.
Although, you know what really drives me crazy? I've heard a developer say, oh, well, this just automatically happens.
Stop it.
And that really implies you're just talking down to me and don't think I know what I'm talking about, or this bug doesn't exist, or whatever.
Or that he doesn't know, or they don't know what happened.
It's kind of mansplaining-ish.
Okay. How about, I gotta get real serious when I say this. Agentification.
Well, you can't avoid it. I don't think I've used it. It took me a while just to say agentic.
True. But that at least describes something. Like, that is like a known process.
And that's the problem with agentification. I don't know what that means. Is that automating? Is that just burning tokens for giggles? It's tough. I realize you got to use it. You got to use it to some degree, just because your board's yelling at you to have an agentic strategy. But yeah, it's absolutely meaningless. Not as meaningless as customer centricity and paradigm shift.
Customer centricity. See, now you've hit a buzzword that I kind of just start rocking.
And it's an old one. I had to interview somebody before, and I had a whole hissy fit over, they wanted me to use the word customer centricity, and I just lost it.
Customer centricity, though, I can stomach a bit more when someone looks at me with a very earnest, straight face and says, we're customer obsessed.
Yes.
Because the thing I want to remind them is, when someone takes it that seriously, when someone is obsessed with a person, they typically end up in jail.
Exactly.
Like, it is not a good thing. But I don't know. But it's also something that, along with customer centricity, it feels really easy to get a stencil and just paint it on the cafeteria wall. Like, we're customer obsessed. We believe in total customer centricity because we do everything for our customer. We do, if our customer wants it, we do it.
It's like LOL. You say it, but no one actually does it.
Or what is it? IMHO.
Oh, yes.
Because someone who says that is not really being humble.
Right.
Just the FYI on that one. Okay. Are you ready for this last one, Larry? I've been waiting to say this to you for a couple days now. I'm not gonna lie. I've really I have really been looking forward to saying this to you and I've been practicing how to say this to you with a straight face. So here it goes. Larry, token maxing.
Nothing pisses me off more than 50 and 60-year-old CEOs saying maxing. Because you just sound like an incel.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. It's absurd. And yet, I actually emailed an AR team to warn them, just to say, make sure there is no references of maxing there. Because you know how journalists go. It's 3 things make a trend. And I am just one away from a nice rant. Sachin Nadella said it. He said eval maxing, whatever the hell that means. And then I saw a slide in the ServiceNow Investor Day that said integration maxing.
Nope.
It wasn't Bill though. It was I think it's the Armis, the company they acquired. It was their guy. And he sort of couched it a little, but you still put integration maxing on a slide. So I just need one more. I just need one more.
You just need one more. Just one more to say it, and then we're done. This is what I fail to understand about it, and it's funny because when I say I don't get it, I often get the mansplaining answer to it, which is really funny to me. Because when I say I don't understand how it's good, it's not that I don't understand the ridiculousness of the word maxing. You know, like I have heard it in sports circles plenty. Right. Like people who want to say ridiculous things are going to say ridiculous things. I don't understand the concept of it and why that somehow proves that you're successful. Because, like, listen, a donkey can eat a whole lot of hay. Doesn't mean they're winning the Kentucky Derby. Like, there's right, like hay maxing, yeah. Like I just don't like. There's not that. It doesn't feel like there's a there. Because anytime I ask someone, well, how does using and burning through a mountain of tokens mean that you've done it right? Now, if what your barometer is that we are trying to build a culture of experimentation, jump in and try things. Even if you fail, it's okay. Like that whole, like I'm going to build a culture of failing forward and failing fast. Okay, I can see that as maybe being a barometer of your success. But what I'm not understanding is how it means your team's getting it right, if that's the metric you're using.
Yeah, I just simplify the whole thing. You sound like an incel. I mean, seriously.
But
like there are certain terms in the English language that have caught on social, and
yeah,
if you're running the company, you shouldn't use it. It
Don't
makes
use
no
it.
sense.
Understand the genesis of the silly sounding phrase.
Right.
Okay, well, listen, that's it for Buzzword Bingo. If there are other things that you want me to basically throw at Larry's head verbally, not physically, even though Larry understands that I probably would throw something at his head. But if you want me to throw something at Larry Dignan to find out if he will break, go ahead, send me the word, right? It's liz@constellationnr.com. You can catch me on Twitter, lizk.miller. But it's been fun, Larry. That's it for this round of Buzzword Bingo.
All righty.
But we've also been seeing a lot. And the world is changing every single day. Yes, token maxing is here for right or wrong. Yes, absolutely. We're seeing a whole lot of change, as we have heard from Ray in his great interview. Certinia, wow, they're killing it. And Larry, you got to love that laugh. Could we get just a clip of that laugh? We're just going to have that be our exit music every single time you come here to see an episode of CRTV. Listen, it's been an honor to be here with you on episode 130. Thank you for watching. Next episode, I'm passing this off to Martin Schneider, my colleague in CX Crimes. He's going to be the Constellation analyst that takes you through episode 131. In the meantime, be sure to follow Constellation Research on LinkedIn, on X. You can find us at ConstellationR. It's at X. Can I still call it Twitter? Just follow us on Twitter. You guys know where I'm going to go. Subscribe to Constellation Research on YouTube and visit ConstellationR.com for all of our latest research, insights, and blogs. There's lots to catch up on there, lots to follow. We are at every event during silly season, so make sure if you want to know what's happening, that's the place to go. We'll see you in 2 weeks for 131.
Liz, way to stay on under time. Very proud of everyone.
I was watching Hannah's notes there in the corner, but we got it. We got
Oh,
the
there's
second
notes.
time.
Can't we get a shot clock timer, like when everybody speaks running?
Nope.
Actually, that would have helped.
Yeah, that's
Nope.
like
Do that one time. Stop talking.
no, we need a countdown.
Come on, Liz.
We need the Oscar
Okay,
walk
so
of the
Hannah, am I
screen music.
filming something with you now?
That would be funny.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I was
Anna's
just
getting
testing
creative on a Friday
Anna's
afternoon.
getting excited about how she's going to participate in these debates.
Yeah,
She's going to be the one in the background, just hitting us with sounds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me pull that up real quick.
Hannah, we're changing the topic. Let's just Mike 12 on his prepared remarks on token maxing, and then we're changing to, does it make sense to expand the World Cup field from 32 to 48 teams? What does it mean for the quality of the upcoming Soccer World Cup? Well, the rest of the world's Mother's Day was last weekend. The US is doing their own thing.
Not
like they
the
do on
rest of
Labor
the
Day.
world. Denmark's is this weekend. Does Denmark not count as the rest of the world?
Denmark is not, as far as
Oh,
I
fuck
know.
them. Then you know what?
I
The Germans
congratulated
say-
our
the
first au
Germans
pair
say
who's a
mothers
Danish
and the-
mother.
And the
And she
Danish.
totally accepted it. and she
How
was
the
totally
fact
don't
that
let
Liz
me
knows
early.
that this week is Denmark's Mother's Day.
Because I was
Again,
in a
how do we remember
call
random shit that just
yesterday
piles into the
where
back
a
detritus of
little
our
guy
garbage
told
bin
me about
behinds?
it. So I
Maybe
don't
it's the
just
Danish
randomly know
Mother's
this
Day.
fucking information. All of you, fuck off. My curtains over here. Holger's got his curtains over there, and then Mike
Mhm.
can be in the middle. And then look at that. It's like,
Now it just
You
looks like I'm in
have
the
to-
basement.
You have to mirror the curtains. You have to mirror
oh,
the
see,
curtains.
but now he can't do it because we don't have the curtains. Yeah, it's just gonna have to be like that. Oh, see there. Look, Holger and I.
Now I'm in the fucking basement. What the hell happened? I'm like in the sub level.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you're not in the sun deck.
I haven't gotten out of this chair since 6:30.
No. Are you serious?
Yes, I've been on calls straight from 6:30
Oh
in the
my
morning.
gosh.
Fix your face, Holger, and your hair. You have horns.
Do I need to get more produce in there?
You do, just on that one side.
All right, I'll be back. I know
Okay.
I need a haircut.
You
Really?
do need a
That
haircut.
was
but
his
you
signature
have
line, by
like
the
a
way, back
horn.
at Oracle. Hey, wait, who is?
Holger, how large is your room? Okay, here he is. I was like, where did you go to get hair product? So, on to the episode. Do you need me to read you that? Did that suck, monkey balls? A wrap on episode 130 of Constellation TV. Thank you for watching.
Him and
Next
Martin just
episode-
like toss it back and forth.
I'm just gonna read it. I'm just gonna read it.